YouTube, how we doing, family? It's your boy Yo, and this is another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Saturday, January 25th, and we have a 14-game NBA card, the big boy card. I'm gonna walk you through every game, let you know which teams I like the most, and I have two highlighted selections for today. If you like what you see, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let me get into the recap. Recapping yesterday, we went 1-0 on our highlighted play of the day. We took the Portland Trailblazers plus 5 points against the Charlotte Hornets. It was an easy cash. The injury news ended up breaking our way, so LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges were both ruled out. The line changed pretty dramatically right before game time, but we were able to cash. Blazers even won on the money line. We're now 26-11 ATS on all highlighted plays, absolutely on fire, up over 13 units in the new year, but I just look to keep it rolling. I'll keep us in that win column, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let me get into today's games. In our first matchup, we have the Indiana Pacers against the San Antonio Spurs. Pacers are laying 2 points, and the total is 232.5. This game will be played in Paris, France. It's the second leg of the Paris back-to-back. We caught the Spurs a couple days ago in the first leg of this series. They were plus money on the money line, and we had Victor Wembanyama over 30-plus points. I thought it was a bad spot for the Pacers. I saw them having fun in France, taking pictures with girls, living it up. You guys saw the ugliest pregame fits ever. They were doing their thing. But I think that last 30-point blowout that the Spurs gave them wakes them up a little bit. We know the Pacers are the more talented squad, and I think in this match, they can return the favor. You don't want to get blown out by San Antonio 30-plus points, whether it's in France or whether it's in Indiana or San Antonio. You don't want to see that. I can't count on the Spurs to win twice in a row as plus money dogs, so we're taking the Pacers -2 as our first selection of today. In our next matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets in Minnesota taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nuggets are laying 5 points, and the total is 228.5. We know home is where Denver plays their best ball. On the road, as road favorites, they're just 7-8 against the spread this season. The Wolves, on the other side, though, haven't been much better as home underdogs. So getting points at home, the Timberwolves are just 0-1-1 this season. They haven't even got a win being underdogs in this spot. Looking at the recent matchups between these two, the Timberwolves have won the last 3 meetings with the Nuggets. So the Nuggets are definitely coming into this game looking for revenge. When I look at the injury reports here, so the Timberwolves will be without Dante DiVincenzo, and then Anthony Edwards is questionable. So definitely keep an eye on if Ant plays. On the Nuggets side, they have no new additions to the IR. The Nuggets have been hoping too. We know that. They've covered this 5-point spread in their last 4 games in a row. They've been getting it done. It's not like it's a problem for the Nuggets to lay 5 points. Short-handed in this one, I don't think the Wolves have enough to compete. So we're taking the Nuggets -5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Boston Celtics in Dallas taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Celtics are laying 8.5 points, and the total is 222.5. The Mavs come into this one still extremely banged up. Of course, they're without Luka, but Najee Marshall, Derek Lively, Dwight Powell, and Jaden Hardy are all ruled out, while Klay Thompson is questionable. So that's an insane injury report, but they've still been hooping. They've covered their last 5 ATS numbers in a row, winning multiple of those games outright as underdogs. So I've liked what I've seen from the Mavs, even though they're still extremely banged up. The Celtics, on the other side, are getting healthier. It looks like they have no new additions to their IR. Derek White is questionable here. But I haven't liked what I've seen from the Celtics. They've been underwhelming, in my opinion. Of course, we all saw that last game against the Lakers. It was abysmal. It was horrible to watch. So I don't like what I've seen from the Celtics recently. I think everyone is expecting Boston to bounce back here, except the books. It's only an 8.5-point line. I think it would be much bigger of a line if this was a lock-in spot for the Celtics. I think it's a trap. I think the Mavs are undervalued based on their injury report, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. We're taking the Mavs plus 8.5 as our first highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Miami Heat in Brooklyn taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Heat are laying 9 points, and the total is 209.5. Neither of these teams has been impressive in this spot. The Nets are 6-9 ATS as home underdogs, while the Heat are just 2-6 as road favorites. So, like I said, both of these teams you don't want to be necessarily betting on. You're losing money taking them in these spots. Certainly not my favorite game on the board. But with the current injury report, when I look at the IRs, I have to lean towards the Heat. The Nets are without Cam Thomas, but they're now without Cameron Johnson in this game. And Cameron Johnson's been emerging as a leader for the squad, so I think that's big not having him in this game. When I look further, Ben Simmons and D'Angelo Russell are also questionable for the Nets. I think the Heat should be able to go into Brooklyn and rather easily get a 16-point win the way their squad's banged up and they haven't been hooping at home. So we're taking the Heat -9 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next meeting, we have the Detroit Pistons in Orlando taking on the Orlando Magic. Magic are laying 2.5 points and the total is 210.5. This is a tough one for me because I like betting on both of these teams in spots. But I feel like this is a good bounce back spot for Orlando at home. The Pistons are 12-5-1 ATS as road underdogs. So they have really performed. You're up huge units betting on the Pistons in this spot. But of course, we know the Magic, what they do at home. As home favorites, they're 11-5 against the spread. So actually, both of these teams have really excelled in this spot. I lean towards the Magic laying the points, but I'm going to look at the total here. So while we know the Magic are one of the top 5 defenses and one of the bottom 5 offenses, that's why we've cashed so many unders with them, I think we see a bit of a different story here. So if we expect Orlando's to have a bounce back and their offense to even be proficient here, when I look on the Pistons side, they average 112.2 points per game. So if we even see a 100-point performance from the Magic, I think this total is set a bit low. In the last 5 meetings between these two teams, the Magic have won 4 of the 5 out of the last 5 with the Pistons. And in all 4 that the Magic won, it went over this total. So whenever Orlando beats Detroit in this spot, the game goes over 210.5. We're taking the Pistons and the Magic over 210.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the New Orleans Pelicans in Charlotte taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Pelicans are laying 4 points and the total is 228.5. The Pelicans have been playing somewhat better recently, but they did start to drop the ball again in their last couple of games, failing to cover ATS. Both of these teams are on back-to-backs here, but I do believe the Hornets have the advantage. When I look at the injury reports, so we know yesterday LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges didn't play, but they're probable here. Reports are saying that they should go and that they likely sat yesterday due to rest. So if they were resting yesterday and looking forward to this game, I think that both of them play, and that puts Charlotte in a good spot here. The Hornets were still competitive yesterday, even without those guys. So I think with their 2 best players returning, they could win this game outright. We're taking the Hornets +4 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Houston Rockets in Cleveland taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs are laying 3.5 points and the total is 228. This will be a fun game to watch, in my opinion. It seems like these two teams have had somewhat of a rivalry over the last couple years, and it makes sense to me because both of them are emerging teams breaking the mold of being poverty franchises. Both of them look like serious contenders. Maybe in the next couple years, I wouldn't be surprised to see either of these teams win an NBA championship. We know home is where Houston plays their best ball, but as road dogs, they're still 4-2-1 ATS. So they're profitable even getting points on the road in this spot. But then on the other side, we know Cleveland has been absolutely exceptional against the spread this season. They're 15-8 ATS as home favorites. Cleveland hasn't necessarily impressed me recently, and they are on a back-to-back, losing outright yesterday against the Sixers as 10.5-point favorites. And yeah, they lost as huge favorites, but the more concerning thing for me regarding this game is that they played a full 48 yesterday. They were trying to come back in that game and they played until the final buzzer. So they exerted a ton of energy yesterday. Coming into this game, I think that gives the Rockets a bit of an advantage. We saw yesterday and the last week or two how the Cavs have looked without Evan Mobley. It hasn't looked quite the same. I think the Rockets keep this game competitive, if not win it outright. So we're taking the Rockets plus the 3.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Sacramento Kings in New York taking on the New York Knicks. Knicks are laying 5.5 points, and the total is 233. The Kings make me laugh because while they've let us down in a couple spots ATS, they have really impressed me from a pure basketball perspective. In their last 12, they're 10-2, winning 10 of their last 12 games. I have liked what I've seen from them. Aside from De'Aaron Fox, he's looked absolutely atrocious. When I look on the Knicks side, they've been disappointing recently. They've dropped 4 out of their last 5 ATS covers. So they only have covered in 1 out of their last 5 games. That's not good. When I look in this game, Josh Hart is questionable for the Knicks. And then on the Kings side, De'Aaron Fox is questionable. I almost like the Kings more if Fox doesn't play. The Kings, I think, are just rolling right now and have a legitimate chance to win this game outright. Keep an eye on this game live because what I've seen from the Kings in the last month is they like to go down big, sometimes double digits during the game, and then come back and cover the spread or win money line. So keep an eye on this game as it's playing out. But I think the Kings absolutely get the cover here. We're taking Kings plus the 5.5 as our second highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next meeting, we have the Toronto Raptors in Atlanta taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are laying 4 points, and the total is 234. We saw this matchup 2 days ago. The Raptors won the game 122-119. We were on the Raptors in that one. They were able to pull off the upset win. Trae Young and Jalen Johnson did both play in that game as well. When I look at the injury reports for this one, Trae Young is questionable and Jalen Johnson is ruled out. In my opinion, those are 2 of the biggest pieces on the Hawks, so keep an eye on if Trae Young plays, but Jalen Johnson being ruled out is concerning. For the Raptors, they have a clean injury report aside from Abaji is on the injury report, but that's not a huge piece for Toronto. I think with the Hawks banged up here, the Raptors can not only get a cover, but potentially get another outright win. They were able to win 2 days ago, and that was with the Hawks being more healthy. So we're taking the Raptors plus 4 as our next selection of today. In our next matchup, we have the Philadelphia 76ers in Chicago taking on the Chicago Bulls. Bulls are laying 4 points, and the total is 232. The Sixers come into this game on a back-to-back. We saw them get that outright win yesterday as 10.5-point underdogs against Cleveland. That was impressive to see, even though we were on the Cavs in that one. I lean towards the Sixers just because I don't trust the Bulls as home favorites. They're just 3-4 ATS yesterday, but I look at the total here. So the Bulls have just the number 22 ranked defense in the league, while the Sixers have the number 24 ranked defense. We know that. These teams don't play any defense. The problem with back-to-backs normally for the Sixers is they stop playing even more defense on tired legs. They usually still get their points. The Sixers have a good average on points, but where they stop putting in the effort is on the defensive end. I think this sets up for a super high-scoring game. We're taking the over 232 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Utah Jazz in Memphis taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are laying 11 points, and the total is 246. The Grizz come into this game on a back-to-back. Ja Morant and Santi Aldama are both questionable from an illness, so keep an eye because they're just sick. They can come back at any point. For the Jazz, Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler will both go. They're both healthy in this one, but John Collins is ruled out. I think this is a high-scoring, competitive bout, but at the end of the day, I have to lean towards who I know and who I trust. That's Memphis at home. They're now 14-7 against the spread as home favorites. You're cashing at a huge clip with Memphis, and we know that. We cashed just yesterday laying 11.5. I don't see a clear reason to get off of them and switch sides here. So we're taking the Grizzlies minus 11 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the LA Lakers in Golden State taking on the Golden State Warriors. Lakers are laying 2 points, and the total is 217.5. This is the classic Steph and Braun rivalry here. They're both getting old. Our GOATs are getting old. I also actually surprised to see the Lakers favorited in this game, but it does make somewhat sense to me seeing that the Warriors are slightly banged up in this one. So the Dubs will be without Draymond Green and Kyle Anderson. This will be a fun game to watch, but not one that I love from a betting perspective. I think getting plus money with the Warriors at home on the money line is the right move, but I do love how the Lakers played in their last game against the Celtics. Lakers looked absolutely exceptional, stomping out any comeback attempt that the Celtics had in that one. Like I said, not my favorite game from a betting perspective, but we're taking the Warriors on the money line as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Phoenix taking on the Phoenix Suns. Suns are laying 14 points, and the total is 232.5. Laying points at home with the Suns is just not the spot you want to be, so the Suns are 4-12-1 against the spread as home favorites. You've been losing practically the whole bankroll betting with the Suns in this spot. The problem is the Wizards aren't much better on the other side. So as road underdogs, the Wizards are just 6-12-2 this season. It's tough to really look in either direction in this spot. Both of these teams come into this game healthy, and I believe at full strength, the Suns just have the firepower. They have what it takes to blow out the Wizards by 20 plus. The Wizards did cover in the last meeting between these two teams. We were on the Wizards in that game, but it took a 16-point run in the fourth quarter for the Wizards to lose by 7 in that one. I believe the line was Wizards plus 11.5, but they were down by 25 points, and they went on a 16, 17-point run. I don't know if we see those same kind of heroic efforts by the Wizards to cover our spread in this one. So we're taking the Suns minus 14 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the Milwaukee Bucks in LA taking on the LA Clippers. Clippers are laying 3 points, and the total is 226. We know the Clippers are the best home team in the league. I've been telling you guys, they're now 11-3 ATS as home favorites. That's just exceptional. Best home favorite record in the league. Milwaukee has been decent in this spot. They're just 4-4 against the spread as road underdogs. So 50-50 here. Both teams come into this meeting full strength. It doesn't look like any meaningful additions to the injury reports. Giannis is probable, but he should go here. And I just think the Clippers have the edge, both size and on the defensive end with their defensive pressure. The Bucks have been stuck in snowstorms. I don't know if you guys have been seeing, but they were prevented from practicing and traveling. They were stuck in New Orleans. Then they had to fly back to Milwaukee. Now they have to fly to LA. And like I said, they've been missing multiple practices, it's been reported. I just don't think they get up here after flying all the way to LA for this motivated home Clippers team. So as our last selection of the evening, we're taking the Clippers minus the 3 points. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It was nice to get back in the win column, and I look to keep it rolling today. I'm going to continue to put in the work and put you guys in the best situations possible. We're now 26-11 ATS, and that's including plus money underdogs. So the work speaks for itself. I'm going to do this every day for free. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the video. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'm going to catch y'all. Peace.